Hey y'all, it's Jen. I hope you guys are having a good week. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank goodness it's going to be Friday tomorrow. It's been a long week on my end. So today I wanted to go back to how to get a free government phone. I was looking through some of my posts and I saw that I was going to make a video on this, and I had never gotten the video made. I've been working through trying to find a better way to be able to give you guys some videos while also sharing my screen and having my browser kind of keep up with the video at the same time so that it's making sense on your guys' end. So the final conclusion came to using Zoom. So I guess we have definitely become Zoom junkies. So I am going to try to create this video using Zoom and using the share screen option to go through the process of ordering a phone for a client. And I'm actually in the process of working with a client right now. I'm doing some volunteer work with a client, and we are at the step to try to get him a free phone. So part of today's training, what I'm going to do, it's going to be a little bit different, but I am actually going to go through the website at the same time that I am ordering this individual's phone. He gave me permission to go ahead and kind of do it at the same time and use him as my test subject to teach this video. But it will be different because the one thing I am going to do because of confidentiality is while I am entering this individual's information, and then I'm going to go ahead and take off the share screen. So just to kind of type his stuff in, and then, you know, we'll go from there. So I'll show you guys the screen to see, so you guys will see the direction of what you're supposed to be taking and what it looks like. But then when I'm actually inputting the data or his information to apply for the phone, I'll take it off share screen real quick and we'll just kind of go back and forth. So again, I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, but that's the best way that made sense to me. So we will go ahead and get started. I'm going to start share screening now. Um, so I am one of those ones for some reason. I when I start to share like a website, like I don't use favorites very well for some reason. I don't know why, because I always think about it after the fact. But I am a Google hound. So I just have like these keywords that I always Google when I'm looking for a certain website. And so when I'm trying to set up a free phone for someone, a free government lifeline phone, then I always just type in Assurance Wireless and it's always my first one. So I am going to click this. So this is the Assurance Wireless page. If you guys can recall from my last post, talking about the free government lifeline phones, I recommended Assurance Wireless. There are some other providers. There's SafeLink, QLink is just two that I'm familiar with. I used to actually use those two quite a bit. But it got to the point about a year ago, like right before COVID, they stopped actually sending the actual phone. They started a contract with Walmart with their family plans to kind of to like they would only send out a Sims card for clients, and then the client would have to go to Walmart and use a credit to get a phone and stuff like that. So it just got too much, too many steps, and so I called one of my friends in the biz, Mina, who was absolutely one of the smartest people I've ever known, one of the best case managers here in Johnson County. I called her and she was the one who directed me to Assurance Wireless. And I am so glad she did because they are so awesome. And again, this is a provider that actually still sends out the phone as well as the Sims card. So this is what works best for the clients that I'm working with. So again, this is the web page. Before you get started, please make sure that you do have a designated address that you are going to be using for your client. We talked about this in the past, looking for addresses, it's difficult for those experiencing homelessness. If they don't have a home, then they likely don't have a home address, right? Or a mailing address. So I first and foremost always recommend to ask them which case managers they're working with, which agencies. If you are a case manager doing this for your client, then you need to go ahead and check with your agency to see what their policy is as far as agreeing to allow clients to use the agency's address as a mailing address. So some agencies in Johnson County are okay with that, some of them are not. So like for instance, Catholic Charities, their policy is that clients cannot use their agency's address, business address as a mailing address for the client. But then Johnson County Mental Health, they have a different policy. Their policy is that you can use the business address for a mailing address for your clients. And so um, again, find out first what your guys' agency's policy is on that, and then also just be mindful that you don't necessarily need to put your name as, you know, it care of or anything like that. If most agencies, if you put just the client's name, it'll come in, and then staff will make sure it gets to you. I know that's how it does with Johnson County Mental Health. It goes to the front desk. The front desk people who are awesome will go ahead and get it to the case manager. They'll look up the client and identify who the case manager is and then put it in the case manager's box. So again, that's like the first recommendation. Like my greatest recommendation is to try to get it mailed out to an agency. If that's not an option, then you know, we do sometimes look at friends and families, but again, I always ask my clients to really only send these things to a friend or a family that they trust, or an address that they trust, that they're going to make sure that they actually get the mail. Because with these phones, it's kind of like you know, other types of mail. It's one of those things where if you lose it, you can report it lost, but then it prolongs the process of trying to get a replacement. So again, just using addresses that they know is going to work. Okay. So anyways, I have that information. I've got my client's information. He has an address. He's actually has an address of a friend of his that he's going to be using, that he's already been able to get some mail from. So we know it's a good address, and he's been able to collect his mail there. So anyways, we go here, we start to apply now. Okay, so this individual that I'm working with today, the address or the zip code for the address that he is being allowed to use, because he is experiencing homelessness, is 66062. So you want to make sure you're putting in the zip code for the address that's going to be used. Okay. Um, so then I'm here and I'm going to scroll all the way down to enroll now. Okay. So this is the screen. I want to show you what this screen looks like, kind of go through each category before I unshare it to put his information in. But again, you're going to put, you know, first, middle, last, contact. Most of the time they don't have a phone number. That's why they're trying to get a phone. So that one you can leave blank. It's not a requirement. Now, as far as email address, I'm going to tell you my preference is I always ask the client. Obviously, the client has to approve this, but my preference and recommendation is always to put the case manager's email address on there. Of course, if the client wants to use their email address, that's totally fine. But why I usually recommend the case manager is because this is the address that updates on the phone is going to go to. If you're not putting a phone number, then you need to put an email address, because you can talk about like the best way for Assurance Wireless to call you. I mean, you can put mail, but that's going to prolong the process. So, you know, if you put email or phone, then it moves pretty quickly. But again, if we're working with someone who doesn't have a phone, then, you know, messages need to go to that email address. So, me, when I'm working with folks as the case manager, I usually put my email, because if something happens, like there's an eligibility question or anything like that, then I'm going to get the email first, and I'm going to be able to look through it and see if there was an error on my part in reference to when we filled out the application, or if there's some additional information that they're requesting, things like that. A lot of times it's easier for me to access my address than maybe someone who's experiencing homelessness who doesn't have a phone. Maybe they're having to wait till they get to the library. They're having to wait till they can get, in contact with someone else who might have a phone to be able to check their email off their phone. So, I mean, again, those are some of the reasons why I highly recommend that if the client is okay with it, to put the case manager's email address. Another thing that's going to be sent to the email, the notifications that are going to be sent is when the phone is mailed out. That's a good way to track it as well, especially if it's going to an address that you're not really 100% sure about, but it was the only address that was available. Then this is a way to track the phone too, to know that when it actually shows up to the mailing location, so that you can, or your client can be available to make sure you're getting it. Okay. So again, I always like to do email address. And then of course I put that the option for them to reach you would be email. Um, so identity, this is the last four of your client's social security number, their date of birth. And then right here, if you are working with a client who maybe doesn't qualify on their own for the free Lifeline phone, but they're qualifying through a child or dependent who, might be receiving like can care Medicaid services, or their child is the one who receives Social Security, things like that, then you would go ahead and put that. In my cases, I'm usually working with single adults, so I rarely ever click that at all. So then of course your home address. So go ahead and put in the address that you're using that you've already identified as the mailing address. And then right here with the zip code, you can see that it's pre-filled. It gets pre-filled in by what we originally put in there. So that's why I said it's important to make sure you're using the zip code in the beginning of the actual um, mailing address that you have identified. And then you can check here if it's the same address. I always just do this. You can go ahead and put homeless. Like I said, sometimes with these systems, it gets a little bit tricky when you're trying to do that. When you're applying for SNAP benefits, food stamps, I definitely say identify the homeless piece and then the different mailing address. But when it comes to here, I always just click that it's one and the same because it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the eligibility factor at all. Um, and so then you go down here and you pick a pen. Okay. Obviously, have this discussion with your client. I mean, if they are set in stone about a pen that they like to use, then that's fine. I would definitely recommend you write it down as well so that you know what that pen is. But if they don't know, then I have, learned through several years of doing this to have a method on how to set up pins in a way that I'm going to remember them as well. Maybe not long term remember them, but in that short term, be able to remember them. So the reason is because a lot of times we might write down pin numbers for folks, but because they are moving around so much and maybe they're outside, they got caught in the rain, whatever it might be, things get lost, things get wet, things get ruined. And then all of a sudden they're calling you going, "Hey, do you remember what my pin was for that?" And you're like, "I have no idea." So, and again, I work with so many clients that I could easily get things messed up and mixed up between all of them. So that's where I kind of started coming up with a system on my own to help me remember. So that system is that when I'm working with someone and I'm doing a pen, again, I get their permission. They have to be okay with this. I like to use common numbers. So for instance, most of the time in these situations, I will use the um, two numbers of the person's date of birth month. So the two numbers of the month of their date of birth. And then, so that will cover that first two numbers. And then the last four of this six digit pen will be the four numbers of the person's year of their date of birth. Okay. So for instance, we're not going to talk about how old I am, but I was born July of 1981. So if this were me filling this out for myself, and I was setting up this pen, I would automatically set it up as 071981. Okay. So, and that actually really works really well. I had a situation last week where I was working with a case manager setting up a phone for one of her clients. Goodness, this was months ago. And the client went MIA for a while. And so she had just been, this other case manager's been holding on to this phone, waiting for them to kind of pop back up. Well, they popped back up. And she was meeting with this client to get him his phone. And all of a sudden, they're like both looking at each other, going, "What was the pin?" And so she was able to call me and she said, "Hey, I'm with so and so. We have no idea what the pin is to set up this phone. We have the phone now. We're here together. Do you have any idea what the pin might be?" And I immediately just said, "What's the person's date of birth?" And once they were able to tell me, their date of birth, then I was like, okay. I was able to spit out the 6 digits of the pin. It worked. Everything was fine. So again, that's why I do it. Again, you guys figure out your own system, but I definitely recommend you get a system. So, um, so set up that pin. Again, you're going to need that pin when the phone comes in, because that pin will have to be used to plug in to get the phone activated. Okay. And then go ahead and you pick your secret answer. What is your favorite city? It's always Kansas City, guys. Always Kansas City. At least for me and my clients. I mean, even if they tell me Austin, Texas, I'm going to type in Kansas City. The reason again is just because if at a later date someone's asking me what it is, I might not be able to remember the pin, but I'm definitely going to remember that the secret answer is Kansas City. Okay. Again, just tricks of the trade, doing it for a long time, how to kind of keep things moving. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing this screen real quick, and then I'm going to jump onto it and I'm going to fill out my client's information. Okay. So you guys get to just stare at me for a minute while I am doing this for my client. Okay. While I'm doing this, I can talk. I had a super awesome experience yesterday working with some professionals doing some outreach in Kansas City, Kansas, up in Wyandotte. And so I am going to be writing some posts. Actually, I think I'm going to write a blog about it. So you guys need to be looking forward to that, because I was able to learn some really good stuff about collaboration through partners when we're outreaching folks that are out camping. So it was really great opportunity. And I'm super glad that I was invited to do that with some of these guys. Okay, so I am just trying to remember my own advice and my own instructions that I gave you guys about how to fill out this form. So I can fill it for my client. And I gotta get information because I have his social and his date of birth here in my stuff, because he knew I was gonna be working on this from home. Okay, the address. Always make sure I'm super careful when I'm filling this stuff in, just to make sure I don't accidentally send it to the wrong location. Doing this as long as I've been doing this, unfortunately, I have accidentally done that before, like switch some numbers and zip codes and things like that, and all of a sudden be like, where is that package that I'm waiting on, whether it be like a birth certificate for somebody or a phone, and then all of a sudden it is like looking it up and I've sent it to Usually I get it sent to Johnson County, but I end up sending it to the wrong zip code in Johnson County, and then I have to track it down, which is never fun. So I always try to be super mindful when I'm filling out people's information, especially addresses, just to make sure that I'm just getting it sent to the right place. So again, I just finished what is your favorite city? I put Kansas City. Okay, make sure everything looks right. Okay, so the next screen, and I'm not going to show you this screen because it does have the information, but once you fill in all that information, that page that I just had, you're gonna push an X, and then it's gonna send you to a confirmation page. And this is just a confirmation that you're gonna review the customer's information, the client's information that you put in, and just verify that you put everything in correctly. So just kind of scan it. My stuff is incorrectly, so I'm just going to push next. Okay. And then it's loading. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop back this screen for you guys to see. So this is where we are next. Like I said, I just put the customer's information on up here. You see that, and then verified it. And so now I'm looking at the lifeline eligibility. What that means is lifeline is actually the program that is providing these free government phones. And so we have to qualify through them and just say that, yes, our client does qualify for this program. So there's two options. You can either qualify through a government program. That would be, you'll see in a minute when I click that, but that's going to be like if your client receives Social Security disability, if they receive Medicaid benefits, if they receive TANF, if they receive food stamps or SNAP. Most of my clients, I get qualified on SNAP, just because not all my clients receive Social Security. Not all my clients are eligible for Medicaid because they don't receive Social Security, but most of like all of my clients, the first thing we usually do on day one is getting them set up for food stamps. So this client today, we have been working on getting food stamps. We've got everything we need. He's been approved for them. And so we are going to qualify on food stamps today. Okay. But this other one is you can qualify through your income. So if you are under a certain poverty level as far as income, you can qualify, but they would prefer that you qualify through a government program first if you can. Again, a lot of times if you're being able to qualify through your income over here, then likely is you actually could have qualified, or you're eligible for another government program as well, because they usually use the same income requirements. So again, though, if for some other reason you're not being able to do the food stamps, the Medicaid, or they're not getting Social Security and you have to qualify through your income, then at that point they're just requiring things like bank statements, stuff like that, pay stubs. So it's a little bit more that they're going to qualify for. So again, I always try to qualify through a government program. So once I push that, it's going to come down and say, well, which one are you going to do? Again, we kind of talked about what most of these are. I am going to qualify through SNAP benefits for my client today. So that's what I'm going to select. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put next. Okay, so this is a program confirmation. It'll pop up just saying, hey, you're saying that your client is qualifying for Lifeline because they are receiving some sort of SNAP food stamp program. And so it's just reminding me, like, you're going to probably be required to submit some sort of eligibility document to show that they do in fact, or the client does in fact receive these benefits, right? So if you happen to watch my video that covered applying for SNAP benefits, that I explained to you that you would receive, like towards the end of the process, you would receive, or your client would receive, two pieces of mail, one of them being the EBT card and the other one being the approval for the SNAP benefits or the food assistance. And I said that both of those are really important, but that the approval is the one that people usually throw away. The approval is the one that's going to come from DCF or Department for Children and Families directly. And that was a piece of documentation that you wanted to make sure they didn't throw away. This is why, because I'm going to use that piece of documentation to verify this. That's why I say it's so important that your client be told to keep that, to snap a picture of it, get it sent to you, whatever needs to happen. If you're the one that's getting the mail, ask them if you can keep it or make a copy for them and you keep a copy, whatever you need to do. But you're going to likely need to use that approval at some point in the future for this and for some other things it can be used for. So it's good to always have a copy of it. Okay. So anyways, that's my spiel. And again, my other piece of the spiel is that food stamps or food assistance, food is a basic need. So if you're working with a client who's experiencing homelessness, there really should be very limited reasons why you have not helped them apply for food stamps, because everyone experiencing homelessness should qualify, unless they've got some other things going on, but most of them should qualify. So as the case manager, I'm really hoping that you've helped them try to, or to get those benefits. Okay. So again, off my soapbox, I'm going to put, yes, we have the documentation needed. And then it's going to come here to this page right here. Okay. It's just saying it's the e-signature consent. It's saying, hey, we want you to read all this. I'm not going to read it. I think I've read it one time in the very beginning. I'm not going to read it now, but it does have, it is sensitive. So it does, the website wants to know that, does kind of be able to notate that you did scroll all the way through this, because they really want you to make sure you are reading it. Okay. So I'm going to say, yes, I read it. It's going to click it and say right here and say, oh, yep, she really did scroll down that. So we're going to take her word. And then we're going to go right here. So it says initials and it says electronic signature. So this is where you put the initials of your client and also of their name, and then also their full name. Okay. And then you're going to go click the next button after that. I'm going to go ahead and go off share screen right now, just so I can go complete that for my client, because as I stated, I'm actually doing this at the same time for a client that I'm working with. Okay, I come back here and I push next, and I'm going to come back to share screen again, show you what happened. Okay, so then I come over here and it's customer assistance. I don't know why I always try to say that word. I can't say it. Anyways, it's that right there. Okay, so this is just again saying important information about Lifeline. It's talking about all the things. It's telling you that you authorize to access your records. It's saying, you know, you need to be telling the truth about being eligible for this service, blah, 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 right? So, and then right here, you need to click this right here, and this will say that I certify as a member of my household qualifies for this. So again, it's the person, your client's the one that's usually qualifying for themselves. So you're going to click that, and then you're going to click this button. I'm not going to click it right now, because when I do click them, it's going to fill in the client's initials right here. And then when I click this one right here, it's going to click in their name. Okay. And so I'm going to unshare this again, but you make sure you click both of them, and then you're going to scroll down and you're going to push next. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back in, like I said, and do it for my client right now. Click button 1, click button 2, and then I am going to push next. Okay. So the national verifier has been down for the last several days. So I actually already started this video a couple times and got held up because of this national verifier. So I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, sorry. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to push the wrong buttons. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again. So this is after I completed that last verification or confirmed it, pushing those 2 buttons, and that filled in the person's initials and their name. I clicked next and it came here, right? So this is saying that we're going to continue to the national verifier. So this is where I have to submit any documentation that it requires for me to prove that the client that I'm working with, and in your situation, your client is eligible for this free government phone. So I'm going to go ahead and click continue to national verifier. Again, this has been down for the last couple days and it was having some trouble. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it is ready to go so this video doesn't end up being a flop. So let's go and see what happens. There we go. Ah, and there's a name that you guys aren't supposed to see. So stop sharing. Even case management, that happens, but I got his permission, so it's all right. So it says, you recently applied for Lifeline benefits with a phone internet company. Lifeline is a federal program that lowers the monthly cost of internet for qualified consumers. We need more information from you to complete the Lifeline application process. That's what it's saying, right? So, and of course it has your client's name and their application number. So I'm going to go ahead and say next, because I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, I need to qualify for this, right? So I am going to go ahead and share this screen. This doesn't have any identifying information on it. Okay. So it says, someone at your address already gets Lifeline. We need more information to determine whether you qualify for Lifeline. So this will likely pop up, okay? The reason is, and I know exactly why it popped up for the client that I'm working with, is because a lot of times, especially when we're using an agency address, it's going to read in their system that there's already someone at that address that has that phone, that uses that uses or that has a phone. And so it's only supposed to be one phone per household. So when the system triggers that, hey, wait a minute, this is a common address, or is there someone already in your household that's getting this benefit, then it's going to ask you to send more information. Okay. So this is a lot like how food assistance works. Just because two people are using the same address, especially if it's just a mailing address purpose, but even if they're like, say they've got doubled up in the same household, it doesn't, or the same, yeah, I'm going to say the same home or the same there. It doesn't mean that they're actually fall under the same household, because it really comes down to how they split up bills and who's responsible for who. Okay. So just because you see this, that doesn't mean that your client's going to be disqualified. It just means you need to provide some additional information. Okay. So scroll on down and it's going to say, do you share money, income, and expenses with another adult who gets Lifeline? That's what it wants to know. It's trying to help identify, are these people, is the person that we've already got shown receiving services from this address, are they a part of the same household as this client that we're applying for today? That's what they're trying to find out, right? I'm going to say no, because they don't. Like I said, both of these individuals that I know, because I'm one who worked with the other client who's using the same address. So I'm familiar with that client too. Neither one of them actually live at this address. This is just, again, a mailing address that's being allowed to be used. So I feel confident in saying no. Okay. So right here says we could not confirm that you qualify for Lifeline, right? So it's saying, wait a minute, we still can't confirm. So it says how you said that you qualified is that you received SNAP. Okay. So then it goes down here and says, how would you like to confirm you qualify? So this is where it's wanting some documentation to verify. So I'm saying, okay, well, we're saying that this client qualifies for participating in a qualifying program. So then it's saying, okay, well, to prove this, we need to have a document that shows that you're in this program, that has your name, the name of the Lifeline qualifying program, So if it's Medicaid, it needs to say Medicaid on it. If it's food stamp, it needs to say food stamps on it. If it's Social Security, it needs to say Social Security on it, right? And then it needs to be issued in the last 12 months, right? So if you just applied for someone for food stamps, this letter should, the award or the approval letter for food stamps should be exactly what you need. Okay, so now it's saying, give us your document, right? It's saying, okay, so what I did was, again, I'm using an approval letter for food assistance for the client that I'm applying for today. So what I did was I took that person's approval letter, I snapped a picture of it. All I needed was a picture of the front page that had all this information on it, right? Met all the requirements, snapped a picture of it, emailed it to myself so that I have it available to go ahead and access, okay? And then, pretty much emailed it, uploaded it to my computer. So now I can go ahead and have that document to put into that. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to choose that file and I'm going to upload it. Okay, so hold on. The good thing, it tells you what kind of documents it can be. And so it totally is okay for it to be a JPEG. So it's okay for it to be a picture. So that's why it really works well for me. Let's see, as long as I can remember where I put it, then it works really well for me. Hold on, guys. Sorry, must have not downloaded this correctly. So let me go ahead and download it and get it saved the way I need to, because I'm not being able to find it. Ta-ta-ta. Okay, so I'm gonna save as, and I'm gonna save that. Okay, I just saved a copy of that. It was in my email, so it was easy for me to, I thought I had already saved it, but I couldn't find it. So it was really easy for me to find. So now I'm gonna go back to the assurance page for the national verifier page, and I'm going to grab that. There it is. I'm gonna put it in there. And then I push scroll down and I push next. Okay. And it's loading. Okay, now I'm going to share screen this so that you guys can see what's going on now. So I already put that document in. I said I uploaded it. I put next. So it's got the document in the application now. And now it's saying your household, that it does not get Lifeline yet. Okay. So this is like saying, hey, we got a couple things that we need you to qualify for. We need you to read all this, and we need you to just verify that, we're still trying to determine that you're not in the household with the other person who's getting this Lifeline service at that address. Like, we just need to do a little bit more checking. Can you go through this and just verify one more time? Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. Like, so you just go down and you're going to put your client's initial in the box, right? You're going to read it, make sure, okay, and then you're going to initial it, and then on the bottom, you're going to sign it again. So or your client's going to sign it. So I'm going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to go and do this for my client. So the first one is, I live at an address with more than one household. That's true. So I'm going to put that. Okay, and then it says, I understand I'm only allowed to get one lifeline benefit per household, not per person. True. I get that. This other person's not a part of this client's household. I understand that this limit is an FCC rule, and lying about my household on this government form can make me lose my lifeline benefits. Got it. No problem. Okay. So then we go down to this agreement. It says, I, under penalty of perjury, attest to the following statements. Okay. I or my dependent currently gets benefits from the programs listed on this form, or my annual household income is 135% or less than the federal poverty guidelines. That's true. So initial. I agree that if I move, I will give my service provider my new address within 70 days. True. I understand that I have to tell my service provider within 30 days if I no longer qualify for Lifeline anymore. Okay, no problem. Initial. And then it says, I know that my household can only get one lifeline benefit, and to the best of my knowledge, my household is not getting more than one lifeline benefit. True. Again, it's based on household, not necessarily the residence, but household, and household is broken up by who's paying for who kind of thing. I agree that all the information I provided on this form may be collected, used, shared, and retained for the purpose of applying for and receiving the Lifeline program benefits. It means that they're going to check it up, make sure it's all good. True. Okay, I got no problem with that. I agree that my service provider can give the Lifeline program and administer all of the information I am giving on this form. True. Got no problem with that. All the answers and agreements that I provided on this form are true and correct to the best of my knowledge. True. So I go ahead and initial. I know that willingly giving false or fraudulent information to get Lifeline benefits is punishable by law. Okay, true. Good to go. My service provider may have to check whether I still qualify at any time. Okay, because again, if this client stops receiving food stamps due to no longer being eligible because of a raise in income, then they no longer can receive this benefit. So they have to report that. Okay, and then the last one is, I am seeking to qualify for Lifeline as an eligible resident of a tribal land. Okay, he's not trying to do it, but you still have to initial it, just saying that you have to identify if you are trying to get a tribal. So then I did all that initialing, and now I'm going to, you have to type the legal name below, which is there. And then you have to type that you understand. Everything, and then you push submit. Okay, so I'm going to share screen this because this, after you push submit, this is what comes up, and this is absolutely normal. Okay, right here. So it says, hey, thanks. We're checking your documents. Thank you for submitting your information. Someone is looking at your documents. To make sure you qualify, this will take a few minutes. Okay, so it says, like, if you qualify here, if you don't qualify, that. Okay, you will have till 4/23/2021 to kind of send us any information to complete the next step. So I'm going to stop sharing. This is normal. Your client's information will be below this screen, but I'm going to stop sharing. And then I always go back to the thing. I scroll down and I push continue. And then it says, you are now returning to your Assurance Wireless application. And it says your page will close in 5 seconds. If this page is not closed, please click back to the original tab in your browser. Okay, so I don't ever wait for it to. I always just click out. Okay. And then I'm going to share screen. So once you click out, it takes you back to this screen right here. Okay. And it says, hey, congratulations on submitting your application for Lifeline. To check on the status of your application, click here. Oh, it's just, I'm gonna take you down because I'm trying to remember what it looks like when it says that, what happens. So sometimes what happens is it says click here and then it doesn't go anywhere. Like I said, this site's been a little bit messed up. So I'm going to show you what you can do if it gets messed up. Okay. So if I'm going to come back here and share screen this again. So again, people are like, wait a minute, how do I check my status? Let me show you how you check your status if you're going back in. Okay, if the page doesn't take you directly there, that link's not working right, then again, I start from the beginning. Assurance Wireless in the Google, click on it. Takes me back to this page right here. I come over here to the Help Center and I tab down to check status. Okay. It makes you throw in your zip code, use the zip code, obviously, of the mailing address that you used when applying for that client. So that's mine. Okay, and so then you're going to put in their information, last name, date of birth, last four of their social. If they do have a tribal ID, then you can put that. Most of your clients will not have a tribal ID. People will ask me sometimes, like, what does that mean? Like, especially if they have ancestors from that were Native American, you know, they'll say that. Really, a tribal ID is only if they are actually like a certified tribal member and hold a tribal card from an actual reservation. Okay, so if they're not carrying a tribal card or anything like that, then they're not gonna have a tribal ID. So that's how I really kind of clear it up with people. So anyways, I'm gonna stop sharing this real quick so I can go ahead and click in my client's information because I want to check on the status and see what they're saying about it. Right now, I'm just putting in that identifying information that it asked me for. That I'm submitting. Okay, so then it's telling me right now that we do not have, oh, let's see, Kansas. Sorry, it's going all over the place right now, what it wants to do. Okay, so it might be too soon, which sometimes it tells you it's going to be quick, but what I've noticed is that really it usually takes about 24 hours for it to get verified and get approved. But the good thing is that, like I said, if you have your email address, yeah, it's not going to let me pull it up yet. It's saying that it doesn't have an updated status yet. Okay, so here we go. So if best thing is, again, if you selected the option for an email and you put as the case manager, you had your email put in there, then you'll receive an update. You'll receive an update once it's been approved. If you haven't received an update within 24 hours, then you can go to the main part of the website like I showed you and go over to that help piece and kind of pull that check status and fill out the information. within 24 hours, there should be some sort of update. If there's not, then there will be a number that pops up that allows you to call Assurance Wireless. To call them, you will need to call them with your client when your client's with you and available, just to see if there was any hiccups or hangups. But 99% of the time, everything goes through just fine. As long as you're presenting that document to show eligibility of a program. Again, I repeat myself over and over again. The best thing to do is to use a food assistance letter from DCF. And so that will really be the best, like I said, the best documentation you can use. It says it's really clear and concise and tells, shows that the person is eligible and what they're eligible for. It has everything that they need on that letter. So again, I always recommend that route to get it, but check it within 24 hours. If there's any issue, give them a call with your client, but then you'll receive updates. And usually it takes about 7 to 10 days. It tells you 7 to 10 days after approval to get mailed out. It usually only takes about 3 to 4. So keep an eye on it. And that is how you get your client a free government phone. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, definitely I'll be posting this on the page. Send me a question. If you guys have any better ways, if case managers, you guys have found a different, easier way to help your clients get free government phones, definitely share that information. We're all about sharing information, figuring out better ways to get things done to help our clients who are experiencing homelessness. Hope you guys have a great night. Take care. See you later.